And here are the rules that were announced today by the Ontario government. The legal age to buy pot will be 19. Retailing will start with 80 standalone stores run by the Liquor Control Board of Ontario. Ontario will eventually have 150 cannabis stores. The product must be kept hidden behind the counter, just like tobacco now. Smoking will be confined to private residences. Anywhere smoking tobacco is banned, so will marijuana. The taxation and price of pot will be determined this fall. 3 Ontario cabinet ministers joined forces to release the retail plan. Finance Minister Charles Sousa was one of them. He joins us from Toronto. Okay, Minister, the age is 19. What happens if an 18-year-old is caught with marijuana? Do they get charged with a criminal offense?
Well, we're making 19 the legal age for possession and for purchasing, and that's how we're going to proceed. We want to take every measure to be protective of our young people and reduction of harm. Oh. And that's the intent that we're proceeding.
I understand that, but also part of the problem was to decriminalize and get, not have courts clogged up with these cases and kids walking around with criminal records. Do they get a criminal record if they're under 19 and caught with possession of marijuana?
I'll leave the Attorney General to comment on how it's going to proceed, but of course what we want is to act within the confines that are being brought forward to us in legalizing marijuana and how to best distribute, retail it in a safe and controlled manner, and that enables us to eliminate the illicit activity, which already exists for all ages. And what we're trying to do is ensure we have a good education campaign, a good health program, a good social program to provide those directions to those individuals that will be affected.
Yeah, kids are pretty savvy these days, and they can order online. How do you know the buyer's at least 19?
Well, I mean, when we do online delivery, which is going to be available to all citizens of the province, it'll be subject to ID checks and signatures when they receive it at home. It's the same as it is with alcohol now. That's available online as well. But listen, we can go back to the early days when prohibition existed for alcohol. There were bootleggers, there were speakeasies, and it took time to evolve over that period of time. We don't have a lot of time, and that's why we're instituting a proven and sure manner, which is a controlled measure, and that's why we're using the LCBO expertise and back office knowledge to initiate something that has been proven to work.
Okay, you end up with about 150 stores in a couple of years. I'm curious, I mean, you got 650 liquor stores, 450 beer stores. Do you have enough? Because as you know, if you have too few, you just drive consumers back to the drug dealers.
Well, we want to be careful about that very issue, and that's why it'll evolve over time to determine what the demand will be and what the acceptance of the public will be as we proceed forward. So we're sensitive to that, and we'll respond and react to it accordingly. You can keep in mind, it's going to be available to everyone online immediately when it comes to play in July of next year.
The smokable product is going to be hidden, much like cigarettes are now. What about edible products? Where do they fit into the retail market?
Well, the federal government has not allowed edibles to be provided for in the delivery of cannabis. It's only going to be smokables and vape. There's going to be oils, there's going to be dry goods, and it's available in the medicinal opportunities now. We will be looking to provide that which is legitimate and which is available to us. Keep in mind that we can only buy from licensed producers, licensed by the federal government, and there's about 58 or 60 odd producers that are being licensed now. Our concern is also having the appropriate supply to meet whatever demand may exist at that time. So we're working closely with our federal partners to ensure that that's there.
And they're also going
to...
Okay, go ahead. They're also going to help you with the taxation question on the price, correct? The federal government, you're going to work with them on that?
I'll be working with my colleagues across Canada as well as my federal counterpart, Bill Marneau, in the coming weeks. We're going to have a finance minister's meeting to discuss just that. And part of that discussion will be the price point. We don't want to make the price of the product very high because that may actually promote illicit activity. We're trying to combat and eliminate the underground use and the underground sales of product. At the same time, we don't want to make the price too low to suggest we want to encourage the use of marijuana. So it's that balance that we have to find.
What's your message to the small business owners who open these dispensaries for medicinal marijuana and now find themselves out of business?
Well, they opened dispensaries that were illegal. They weren't there for medicinal purposes. Medicinal marijuana is available to everyone online from the producer directly to the consumer. They're illegal activities. They don't pay the appropriate tax. They don't contribute to the communities. They don't reinvest in education, in healthcare, in drug addiction, in the very thing, enforcement, to ensure that proper education is there. Every store will provide on-site delivery and education. We're doing a huge campaign ahead of time to ensure that we inform the citizens and the communities of what's taken place. These dispensaries are illegal. They were illegal before. They continue to be illegal now. And we're doing every effort to eliminate and drive down the illicit use of that activity.
Okay, Charles Sousa, interesting day in pot retailing. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, a tireless advocate for legalized marijuana now finds herself shut out from selling it once it gets the green light for retail sales. Jodie Emery of Cannabis Culture joins us from Toronto. Jodie, pretty strict rules on the retail market. What's your reaction?
Oh, this is insane. And you can even see the way that he's speaking. They're bending over backwards trying to figure out how to legalize it without actually legalizing it. What we're seeing is the government working to maintain criminalization. The police are going to receive hundreds of millions of dollars more to enforce these new laws, in addition to the already existing budgets they've got. And you've got the government who fought against legalization for so long, looking to run a monopoly on it themselves. And they're going to spend hundreds of millions of tax dollars setting up a massive bureaucracy to try and reinvent a wheel that's already rolling and spinning quite fine. It's insane.
Yeah, but it's not going to be criminalized. You'll be able to buy this stuff at these stores. I think some people would argue there's just not going to be enough of them, and you're going to drive a lot of consumers back to the drug dealers.
That's exactly the major problem. So we're supposed to be legalizing marijuana for three main reasons. One, stop criminalizing adults who shouldn't be criminals for pot. Two, stop criminalizing the existing industry. That's what legalization is supposed to legalize, the growers and sellers who are peaceful and nonviolent. And three, legalization is supposed to end the wasteful spending of hundreds of millions of tax dollars on law enforcement for pot. But what we've seen is a lot of former politicians and police officers buying into and running these medical marijuana companies, getting ready to make money on the recreational market, knowing full well they won't have the supply for the demand, maintaining the criminal market, so the government and the police win, and the taxpayers and the dispensaries and the patients all lose.
Well, react to the Minister Sousa's comments about these dispensaries. He says they're basically illegal operations. They're not paying taxes. They're not being good corporate citizens. They're selling marijuana. They have nothing to do with doctor prescriptions. Haven't they brought on the problem with these sort of government controlling moves onto themselves by not acting a bit more responsibly?
That's what's so maddening about this. All of the problems that are being created are created by the government's own policy. The plan that the Ontario government has just put forward will ensure that we see all of the same problems: the continuation of the so-called black market, the continuation of all the raids and arrests. And let's remember that criminalization creates a criminal market. So how do they expect to eliminate the criminal element from cannabis if they're going to keep criminalizing it? This prohibition policy that the government has put into place, this restrict and limit approach to legalization, is designed to ensure that the continued law enforcement spending goes on, that Canadians continue to be arrested, and this monopoly will ensure there's not enough money, there's not enough jobs. It's going to deny Ontario residents the ability to grow the economy with independent retailers.
Sounds like you think reefer madness goes on. All right, Jodie, you're in Ottawa next week to talk to the politicians. I think they're going to get an earful. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for the time to talk, Don.